and go to live on Facebook, right? So this is going to take a second, for me to I just got to fill in the live one. I've got to give it a name, right? Go over of chapter 1, just one word. Our capital R reading of chapter 1 begins. ... Come join in the fun and the deep discussions. You know, how many times haven't you seen people put in their bios, I like walks on the beach and deep discussions? Yeah.
Yes.
Lisa, you've seen that 20 times, yes?
Sure have.
How many actually act on that beside you? This is what I so loved about you from the very beginning. You
They're
really
going to get more than they
meant it.
bargained for with us, huh?
Exactly, exactly. But you know, Lisa, this is what really was a big deal from the very beginning. That you really meant this about deep discussion. I don't know if you ever said it, but you know, just in our interaction. So okay, I'm clicking going live. It will take a second to be there. So this is important. This willingness to actually deep discuss. Most people say this, but it sounds good. But I'm sorry, people, you don't really mean it. You don't really mean it. Yeah. And this is important. So we do mean it, and we do go into it. And it's not, you know, I remember back in the day, well, this was in the 70s, but you remember the 60s, I think, Lisa. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the 60s, but maybe. But anyway, back in that time, it was heavy. Oh man, that's too heavy, dude. You know, too heavy for me, right? So heaviness had this negative connotation, like heavy discussions, right? That implication that they didn't want to go there. It was too serious, too sober for them. But no, I always loved the heavy discussions.
Well,
I
I'm
always
surprised
loved
you remember the 60s.
Well, I'm the perpetual young man, so I've been around. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, because I think you're younger than I am.
Oh yes, oh yes.
At least with age.
Correct. But see, I remember the 60s because in South Africa, they lasted a little longer. So in the mid 70s, it was still around. It started to fade by the mid 70s, but it was still around.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Because like
so,
here in Panama, it feels to me like they're about 25, 30 years behind the US. I mean, you know, if I look at comparing. Yeah.
Correct. So there
Which
is
I
that.
love.
Right. So there is actually in one of the science fiction stories, they really take this actualized factor in the world, which you have a center, a cultural center, philosophical center, everything, and the further you go from that, physically, geographically, the more the force of that culture starts to get diluted. And it has the effect of being slightly back in time. So in this one science fiction series, you've got the sort of core world, and then as they settle other worlds, initially, of course, when you come, the people are the same as where they came from. But over time, because of the distance, those worlds ended up being behind in time. So you got these like Western worlds and all of this. It's quite fascinating, and there's an actual basis for it in our world, as you now see. It's most fantastic. It's most fantastic how that works. Go over off. Let me just write this here quickly. This one
It's a lovely Panama is a lovely culture for that. You know,
yes,
like it's
yes.
I mean, I can actually,
Ramsey,
there's
yeah.
Ramsey, good,
Lisa.
Ramsey.
Yeah, sorry
Hi.
to interrupt you, but okay, welcome and hello, Ramsey, and everyone else who is watching us. So we are live now, and Lisa was sharing. So Lisa, please continue.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just saying that if we look at, you know, the relativity of countries, one lovely thing about being here for me in Panama is that people still use a lot of people still use horses as their main source of transportation. And it's lovely, you know, it's just lovely to see that. I mean, the cowboys here are a true way of life, being a cowboy. I'm done.
That's it. So the concept that we were discussing is that from your cultural center points, which we could argue that Hollywood is kind of the cultural center point of the world, unfortunately, in the world we have. And of course, America also, simply because of the economics, right? Not because they have anything else, but simply because of the economics, right? And so the further you go from that, things tend to get a little bit diluted or behind in time, which is the point I was making, that Lisa said, I'm surprised you remember the 60s, because I was a very young child, I was in my single digit ages during the 60s. But I remember the 60s very acutely because they were a little bit behind, like they continued over into the 70s. And since I started at 10, which would be, in the 73, I turned 10, or 72, 73, I turned 11, I guess. Anyway, at that time, I was really making an effort to think and pay attention. So I really did pay attention to the 60s, and especially later, because the 60s was such a shift culturally. Even though they affected a small number of people, they did have a profound effect on society. And they still do, even today. So hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. I'm pleased to hear. Hello, Janet. I'm pleased to hear. And hello, Ramsey. I'm pleased to hear. I just love it. All right.
Okay,
so
by the way, I do remember the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm so lucky in this.
And some people, we can have a connectivity to times we've not lived.
Exactly.
Like you'll see some people, they're very connected to like the Victorian era. Well, I know I grew up with many of them. Right? It was a very big deal. So it's fascinating, and not just to eras, but to cultures. And
exactly.
like when I had the sword and the knife store, right? For those of you who don't know, once upon a time, I owned a sword and a knife store, like literally thousands of knives. Probably had about 10,000 knives in that store, and hundreds of swords all over the world. Anyway, so I mentioned this because there's a relevance to it, in this, that because I had so much product and it was such a specialized store, it was like a little mini museum. It was like an armory in the games, but none of the games had an armory as cool as the one that I had. We had armor and everything. Anyway, because of this, we got people that were super into things. Like, for instance, guys that were super into the whole samurai culture, samurai swords and all this. But not just the swords, the actual culture part of it. And those guys were more samurai and more Japanese, as it were, in that aspect of being Japanese, that particular aspect of being Japanese, than the average typical person in Japan would be today. They really took this to heart. They knew everything about it. I mean, they were absolute experts on that because it so resonated with them. And it actually, that really shifted my understanding of much of immersion and culture and a lot of things that came from that. So it's a very profound thing how we can find resonance, capital R, resonance, with that which we aren't necessarily directly connected to, right? Like that samurai era, or Bina says she knows the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, that mid-war era.
30s. Yes.
30s and 40s. Okay. See, I said 20, sorry, because I was thinking the whole era, but see how specific this is for Bina. 30s.
Yes.
It's fantastic how this is.
Yes.
I don't know. It's we can transcend time sometimes, and it's a profound
Oh
thing.
yes, absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
is very, very, very profound. All right, so we're going to
Okay.
start. We're going to start in 1 second here. I just want to get my thing set up. It always takes a little bit of time, unfortunately, just the nature of the sharing
Well,
the lives. Go ahead.
Bina has me intrigued with that.
Please share.
Is that through reading, Bina?
No, it's not through reading, but
Through your
it's
family,
actually,
extended family?
no, yes, extended family, you can say that, but through my friends. I have
Okay.
friends who were in 1930s, and they are still here.
Oh.
And they shared so much in detail that I not only become aware of the culture, American culture at that time, but also that what was happening in general in the world, like really how things were evolving, how things were changing, and development and other things, about culture and about music also. And I do have friends like almost every decade, from 30s to now, to 2000.
Wonderful.
So this is how I learned so many things. And also I had some exposure to Hollywood and American TV and American movies. Almost all the classics from the black and white era till now. I had to get a chance to watch all those movies also, like really black and white, blurry movies, till of course so many other the advanced technology here now. So that's why I say that, okay, I do have this exposure to almost a decade. Sorry, almost a century.
So this is the power of immersion. Through immersion, that it opens up connectivities. And when we have intent added to it and a clarity of intent, we start to notice, see, and connect to things that, because that's how our brains are set up. They connect us to what is pertinent and relevant to us. What determines what's pertinent and relevant to you? Your intent. That's why clarity of intent makes so much difference. You're saying, this is what I'm doing, and suddenly you see and notice everything. It is a profound, profound, profound mechanism. It's very, very, very cool. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yes. All right. So Bina is going to screen share. Because yes, our purpose is here to reread the chapter 1, and we are going to. But in this, we are, as it came up we just had a session here, and we overlapping somewhat. So in what we were doing before, this has come about discernment, about word usage, and since the chapter is titled Just One Word, we're going to read Bina's poem. Now, we're going to do many things here, but I just want to say we're going to be extracting moreness, as we always do. And the purpose of this reading of Bina's poem is to have our own skills of reading, capital R, reading, capital R, poetrying, poetizing. How do we make that into a verb where as the reader of it, we are able to poetize what the poet, the writer, the author has said, right? So it's a particular skill to not just read what's written, but to read what's meant, what's beyond meant, what's intended, and to read not only what's intended, but what is actually shared, which not necessarily there's a specific intent, but what is shared, right? To connect to that energy. Brilliant, Elizabeth. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear, Elizabeth. Good, just perfect timing. So, Bina, please screen share.
Yes, I am. Can you see this now?
Yes. So, this meeting is all right. Here we go. And will you just position it so that I can see the top and the bottom? Just slide that. So I'm going to read the whole. Now I'm going to read Bina's poem, and Bina's going to read Bina's poem, and any volunteers will read Bina's poem. Yeah.
I'm going to mutilate it. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now the reason that I'm mentioning this is because to read a poem is very, very powerful. And I've been practicing my reading, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
sometimes now I really, Bina, you please say what I'm about to say when it comes to this reading relative to how I'm reading it and sometimes how you reading it. Because if I say it, it's going to sound egotistical.
No, it is really powerful because sometimes because lack of practice and lack of discernment also, even a poet or a writer who actually wrote that not able to communicate what they really want to say.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's a completely
yes,
different process than writing. Writing
exactly.
something is completely different because it's an
Right,
internal dialogue. You can just write it with the
exactly,
all the
exactly.
mood and intent in your mind, but
Yes,
communicating it is a completely different
yes,
process and has
yes,
nothing to do with the
yes,
writing itself. Okay,
yes.
so
Right,
they are two
right,
different things.
right. So now when we read this, right, as a reader, my task is to hear Bina's voice.
Yes,
Capital V voice, right? What Bina hears in her mind, but what Bina hears, the sound of this when she's writing this, is not necessarily what she's able to express actually verbally, acoustically, right? Audially, right?
exactly,
So there's a
exactly,
discrepancy
exactly.
there. So my
Yes.
job as a reader, and because I know Bina really well, we spend a lot of time together pretty much every day. And so I really do know Bina. So I do have this ability to articulate her voice. And this is not just my opinion, Bina keeps confirming this, right? And so this is
Also that not
right.
only, sorry, but I just want
No
to add
problem.
that not only that, okay, you know me well, but also that we have done this whenever
Correct,
I create
correct,
something, of course you help
correct,
me.
correct,
Also that
correct,
we go over again and again. And then you
correct,
ask me
correct.
that, okay,
Right.
why you want to say this in a
Exactly,
particular way.
exactly, exactly.
So this
So
questioning is just to make
exactly.
the more
Right,
context more
right,
clear.
right,
Yes.
right. So I'm assisting in the editing, but if you're going to be a really, really good editor, and you know about editing, Lisa, you edited visually, which is really profound. A good editor doesn't change what the writer is saying. They find ways to bring out and enhance what the writer is saying, and and not to lose the writer's voice. This is very key. This is very key, right? Many editors don't understand about voice, right? So you've got to hear the person in the
Yes.
poem. So I want to practice this because it's part of our discernment. But this bigger point here on this is this is about language and connectivity and clarity of intent.
Yes.
So keep in
Yes.
mind, we are on just one word and appropriateness, but also because it's tying into Lisa and doing Way-Of-Impeccability, module 1, session 1 of Way-Of-Impeccability. Elizabeth, you know this and others know this, is clarity of intent. So
Yes.
in this
And focus on.
poem, the intent is given us by the title, Colors Deep Intoxication. By the way, I'd recommend you put that in all caps, by the way, Bina. I mean, you've got it in inverted commas, but then it'll make it more clearly obvious as a title.
Okay.
Yes. So Colors Deep Intoxication. Wow. Wow. That's a profound title. So I have to keep this in mind as I read. This poem is titled. So that's the focus. That's the intent. That's the core. All right. So here goes the reading. Right. You guys ready? Colors Deep Intoxication. Intimacy.
Yes.
Intimacy. Power of wholeness. Deliberate creation of love. Intimacy. Defined pureness. Shining exuberance. Wholesome warmth. And subtle numbness. It is. Intimacy. Purging protection of timid souls. Intimacy. Knowing hope. Reality of willful desires. Law of nature and submissive order. It is life. Crude energy, pursuit of being. Life. Forsaking cocoon, skipping unity. Clown feature, sculpted muse. It is life. Crushing heel prevails. Clarity. Life. Hold on gaze of universe, calling more. Building perceptions of belonging. Silken moves of gentle wind. It is love. Gently embracing, providing provision. Love. Being rubber at boiling point. Soft, gentle, embracing. It is. Eyelashes, eye contact. It is. Love, silken moves of psychedelic colors. Colors, deep intoxication. It is. It is.
Oh, thank you.
Did I do your poem? Did I do your poem justice, Bina?
Oh yes, oh yes.
I tried really
You
hard.
actually add more to it. You actually add more to it. So thank you so much for doing this. Because I'm not able to read it like this. But yes.
Well, you will. It's just practice, right? I mean, I've been practicing very much on this, very diligently, very assiduously. So the point of this, how does this connect to just one word? It is because this is about colors, deep intoxication, and intimacy is about the connection to color, not necessarily the intimacy of our typical relationships, right? It is this when you are intoxicated by color. I'm just giving a repeat back here as I understand it, and that intimacy is the intimacy of color. Like this is an artist's intimacy, right, Bina? Am I making sense here? Right. So I just wanted to make a touch here, right? Because I don't want to go into a big dissection of the poem because then we'll spend all of our time on this, but how it relates and connects. And we were talking about words. So this is a little bit for Lisa here specifically, right? When we look at this here and how Lisa is using her words here and that law of nature and submissive order, this connects to intimacy, and the intimacy connects to color. So when we understand submissive order in the context of color and the intimacy and how color has its own laws, it's part of those natural laws. Right now, it just changes our entire understanding to understand that language is profoundly contextual. Yes?
When I first saw the word color, I thought she was referring to color. Like I thought to myself, oh, now I understand why she was going off on the color red. But then after you read the poem, I saw color as emotion, like color as a metaphor for like something for like, right, and not a color as in a color, but as the color of life.
Yes.
Like intimacy is part of life, and like an emotion, rather than
like mood and flavor and things like that.
A verb instead of a noun.
Yes, too wonderful. All right, so Bina, you will monitor the chat there as usual, please. If I miss something, and Lisa.
Just want to add something about the poem because you explain it really well. Because it's a very deliberate practice of deliberate reading, capital R reading. Because when I was using words, there are so many words into this poem, that doesn't make any relevance to the poem immediately. They does make connections, but because we are so set and attuned with to go with the default meanings, like in general, okay, yes, this word means this and this word means that, and it's very common. I'm also part of it, but I do practice deliberately paying attention to words and their usage. So in this poem specifically, there are few words which might have a different association for so many people. But in this particular, and especially, I just want to mention one word: submissive order, because different people have different understanding, and of course,
it came up.
Generally,
so magical.
A different association with that. But in this specific poem, I use this word because for me, it's not just submissive order as a whole term. I'm just explaining the characteristics or the qualities of that particular order of nature. That yes, it's an order, but it is submissive towards the colors. So this whole idea of the poem is about that, yes, things are like that, but when it comes to color, they are completely different. And colors are a representation of intimacy for me. Intimacy, not in terms of the physical aspect of it, which is of course part of the nature. I'm not denying it, but my focus was on something different, where you feel connected, intimate towards with the universe, with nature,
Exactly.
and with
Exactly.
colors. So,
Exactly. And this is what we're going to do. It's about this appropriateness, in other words, which is the focus of chapter 1, right? Just one
yes,
word, appropriateness, and
yes.
understanding this, how appropriateness is so layered. It's not a thing in itself, but it is appropriateness really is actually a verb almost. Yes. It's an unusual one that yes, appropriateness here is a noun, but it's also a verb, right? So appropriateness is a doing. It's not a standard definition. It's open, it's living, it's fluid, it's flux, right? The perfection and beauty of the individual. Yes, absolutely. So this is what we celebrate. This is what we celebrate, because that perfection and beauty, it comes from your individuality, from your difference, not from your sameness. Not from your particular skills, no, but from your difference, right? So at least from a new
Yeah.
nobility point of view, the celebration of difference is what makes this whole idea of comparison totally ridiculous.
Hmm.
If we
Yes,
celebrate difference, not tolerate or acknowledge difference, but celebrate it,
yes,
how can I be comparing? How can I say better? It's ridiculous. I look out the window and I see all the wonderful trees here and a little river running next to me here. Right? I call it a river, but I'm being kind to the stream. But it's got lots of trees, right? When I look at them, how can I compare them? I can say, oh, you know what? You a prettier tree than that one. You nicer. You a smarter tree. It's idiotic. It's totally ridiculously, absurdly idiotic to do that to trees. Yet we have been taught to do this with humans. It is equally idiotic, ridiculous, foolish, and absurd to do with humans. Yes. So celebration of difference. Yeah. And if you know somebody has something, it's like, and that I don't have, I'm like, brilliant, brilliant. I can learn from this. I can celebrate it. I can appreciate it. I can enjoy it. Yes. And the reverse, if somebody has, I've got something to share that somebody else doesn't have, it's an opportunity for me to express, to share, to communicate, to practice communication, interaction, right? There's no higher, lower, better, worse, none of that. It's totally ridiculous, right? With the trees, totally absurd, totally absurd, right? So I just wanted to emphasize that. Brilliant. By the way, anybody who comes here regularly, right? So Janet, Norma, Elizabeth, Ramsey, all of you, if you have poems or writings that you wish to share, we can
yes,
do this. We can do this in this hour like this, added and connected, or we can even go
yes.
in a separate time to say, hey, let's do a live on, like we could
Oh,
do
yes,
a whole live just on Venus poem. We may spend a whole week or month on that. But likewise with all your writings. And I'm
oh,
thinking
yes,
of Norma's poem that she wrote, right?
yes, yes.
Um, 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 Norma, if you can copy and paste it there into chat, that I can read it, because I don't know if I can access it so quickly now. Well, let me see. Maybe I can.
Yes.
Let me see. Maybe I can. Yeah, it's a very short little poem, but there's much to it. A very profound poem. Right? There's 4 lines, but it was very cool. So anyway, so we'll go into these discernments of things, because that's what we do here. It's all about discernment. But I do want to get to the story, right? And to start going through this in details. So do our capital R reading of it to really connect it, because I want to hear capital H hear from all of you. Yes, I
Yes.
did hear some yesterday, but again, in the nuance, right? Again, the title of this book 1 is called The New Nobles, right? I had it originally as The New Nobility, but it turns out there is a book called The New Nobility, and it's all about the Russian oligarchy. And I said, no, no, no. I understand how he means it. It's a bit of a sarcastic term, and it's leveraging the old nobility, and so I call it The New Nobles, right? So all right, just a little bit of nuance there. Oh, by the way, let me show this as the video, because this is very cool. Um, just because it's actually a little video behind there. You see, look at that, look at that. Isn't that cool? You probably can't hear the sound, but it has forest sounds and the birds tweeting and all that. I just love it. Nuance, just a little bit of nuance there. Fun. The new novels, because a lot of it takes place outside, and this too, the swirls when I do that. In the first chapter, just one word, just one word. Very powerful. One concept to rule them all, one concept to find them, one concept to bring them all, and in the unawareness, bind them from tales, myths, and fables of the new nobility. So I want to go into this a little bit in our capital R reading here. And before I do, how does this quote grab you guys? Right? How does it connect to you when you read this? What happens? Lisa?
Well, I've seen this quote before, and I've had a bit of a hard time grasping the meaning because of the word of unawareness. I still honestly don't understand it.
All right, so we'll get to that in a moment. Thank you. That's exactly why I was hoping to bring it up. Now, of course, this is a play on the one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all.
Lord of the Rings.
And in the darkness, I think it is bind them. I think it's darkness, not unawareness. Yeah. Now.
Well, now I get it.
Right, but more so, right? Alpheus, brilliant. Magic to have you here, Alpheus. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Bina. Wonderful. And Norma was doing it yesterday. Thank you. I love it when you guys do that, and welcome the people who are joining by way of a like, letting us know that they've joined. It is important. So Alpheus, I'm greeting you as if I know you. I don't know you. Never had any connection to you, but I am thrilled that you are here. It is a big deal, and it means a lot, right? And we want to hear from you, and I really want to make this open and accepting. You're not joining this and you're an outsider, none of that. No, it doesn't matter that I don't know you from anywhere. You're free to say whatever it is, share whatever you want. It's a very big deal. So first of all, where I shared this in a writing group, by the way, just a quote here, and I got a lot of pushback. Yeah, but you're ripping off Tolkien and all this. First of all, this idea of the ring is not original to Tolkien, right? It comes from before, and you can go into I'm forgetting the German opera writer who wrote about this anyway. And so this ring is not original to Tolkien. He took a lot of things from myths and fables and tales and reworked it and brought it in there. Now, if you read this here from tales, myths, and fables, and we understand the new nobility are out in the future, well, things change over time, right? And things get adapted, like his whole idea of the ring. He changed it, and now this ring thing is part of our mythology, but we only remember it as Tolkien. We don't remember it as coming from Siegfried, and I forget the composer, the writer's name of all that stuff. But it's the whole Siegfried mythology. And then before that even, right? So there's all these things that over time they get changed and adapt. But yeah, we're saying a concept. So if we think of this as this idea of a concept, one, to rule them all. All right, so this is a dominant concept. Rule is a harsh term a little bit, but fine. It is an overview. It's from where everything else flows. Everything is relative to this one concept. One concept also to find them. Wow. Our concept not only is going to be sort of having an influence, ruling an influence on all the concepts that follow from it, all other concepts, but also assists us in finding new concepts. Wow. One concept to bring them all, a unifying concept. And in the unawareness, bind them. Why unawareness to answer Lisa? Because if we don't have awareness, we want a tool that allows us to have something that in our unawareness will take these other concepts and rule them and to find them and to bring them all and bind them to have a cohesiveness. Yes, this is really, really powerful. Now, of course, we've already gone through this chapter and we know what that concept is, appropriateness, right? So when we look at this and we understand that, I'm a bit unaware generally, but when I can connect to this one concept, just this connection to the concept of appropriateness and understanding truly what it means, it suddenly takes all my other concepts like intent, like impeccability, like integrity, like strategy, etc. And it puts them all into one pocket, one understanding, and that now takes my unawareness and brings all those concepts, binds them, and now suddenly I'm a bit less unaware. Because when we talk about being aware, we aren't actually aware, we are just less unaware, right? So there's that nuance to just remind us. It's a very subtle point, and I really spent a lot of time on this when I put this together originally, right? To bring in that unawareness, right? So this is a nuanced reminder, and of course, from the new nobility point of view, they're very sophisticated about stuff like this. They really go in detail. So it's a subtle reminder for them that when we are looking at the enhancement and development of awareness, which we'll come to later in the story, as being the point and purpose of everything, what we're really talking about is continually being less aware. Yes, it's a measure of our humility. Yeah. So Elizabeth says, so this quote grabs me as what dark matter, greater intent is, how it connects areas that are not yet seen, and ultimate humbleness thus to reach outside beyond known. So yes, so Elizabeth, by the way, is just takes on often, Elizabeth, you become like a spokesperson for the story and for the intent of what's going on. You elucidate and articulate what is being said exactly as you do there. Yeah, this is wonderful. And this is why I want to hear from you, because, you know, sometimes some share and they may not be fully connecting, but like this, Elizabeth truly connecting to the intent of this quote, yeah, and the idea behind it. Yes, that ultimate humbleness to reach outside beyond the known. Beautifully expressed. Beautifully expressed. Anyone else before we move on? Because it's a big deal, this quote, right? And there's so much coming to it. So, Lisa, does the unawareness make more sense to you now? Why it's there?
Well, I guess in the effect that you mean, perhaps, do you mean that we're all connected through unawareness, and we're all trying to deal with it?
Correct. Yes.
We're all trying to.
Correct. Yes. Right. Yes. And also in the full context of it, that this one concept of appropriateness allows me to connect to you. And in our mutual unawareness, we find community. And now those other concepts that are floating around out there that before were just kind of disparate and really just unconnected a bit, this one concept starts to connect them all, right? And now suddenly, even in our mutual unawareness, we binding these concepts together. Because, right, look, it's ruling them, it's finding them, it's bringing them all together and binding them in a coherency that we can use. This is what your dictionary of power is it not? Your dictionary of power might as well be labeled the specific concepts which all go together in the greater concept of appropriateness. Yes. All of those are about being capital A appropriate. Every single entry in the dictionary of power is about being capital A appropriate. How to be capital A appropriate, right? Through having capital S sobriety. Oh, that's one aspect of it, right? Having integrity, etc., right? All about appropriateness in the grand concept. See the binding part in the unawareness? Our dictionary of power is incomplete. Yeah. So we're always in unawareness, but at least in that unawareness now we have a bit of light. Yes. And this is where the slide comes in again, right? It's an eclipse. Yes. But we are saying there is light there. We just not seeing it because we've got blockages, we've got stuff in the way. Yeah. And of course the circle, it binds them and all this. So a lot of nuance in this visual here, right? Very, very powerful. Yeah. Make sense, Lisa? Lisa? I just want to make sure you're okay. I don't want to assume.
Sorry.
Oh, that's right.
It makes more sense to me now. Yeah, and I do love the graphic and how you have that point of light where the light bulb has gone off and we're all connected in one awareness in our unawareness. On something. On perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it makes more sense to me now. But it does not make complete sense to me, to be honest.
I heard somebody calling. Oh, brilliant. Hey, how are you, Christopher? Hello. Very good, man. I'm on Zoom, so I'll just say hello quickly today. It's all good, man. See you again. My Amazon driver who brings joy every time he delivers. It's too magical. Somebody who really takes care in doing what they do and brings that moreness. So, very cool. So I always make an effort to greet and reach out. I really appreciate what they do. When people do that extra care, it's a big deal to me. I really appreciate it very deeply. So there you go. One more. Thanks, Christopher. See you again, man. Bye-bye. So magical. I just appreciate these little moments of magic in the world around us. Just too cool. Also, this concept of the eclipse. When we typically say an eclipse, it takes a couple of minutes or whatever. But I think we are in life somewhat eclipsed. And that eclipse sort of lasts most of our lives, right? But if we realize that we are eclipsed and have the patience to persist, we start to see a bit of the light come through, right? And gradually we see more and more. It's just on a slower time frame, right? So we have this like a lifetime eclipse going on. So lots to this. By the way, one way of looking at like especially in things like this, a quote like this or a poem or something. And when we come to a phrase, a word that sticks with us, just replace it and say, well, okay, unawareness, what else could be there? See? So if like, what would you have replaced this with before now, right? When you first kind of like got stuck on it a bit, Lisa? I think you muted again.
Well, I would replace it with awareness. When I put the word awareness there, then it makes sense to me.
Okay. So again, awareness and unawareness is just part of a scale, yes?
Yeah.
Right. So when we say awareness, what do we mean by that? In our actual particular awareness relative to universal awarenesses, aren't we closer to the unawareness side than the awareness side?
Yeah. Yes. When I think of unawareness, I think of how that we're not aware of it. So how can we even be if we're not aware of it, then how are we really together?
Okay. So now we get to nuanced understandings of awareness and unawareness. Now, and this is coming to this point where Biella's question, right? But when we think of what we're aware of and unaware of, aren't there many things, many concepts that float around inside us that we sort of kind of know, but we don't really pay attention to them? So they, in reality, anybody observing us will sort of be forced to conclude that we kind of unaware of it. But they know if I ask you about it, you'll say, oh, yeah, well, duh, but now suddenly you're aware of it, but it wasn't actually in awareness, right? So you were unaware of it, even though you do know about it, yes? So there's many things like this that are, I call them not yet known. Yeah, and this is a very powerful understanding. Wow. I'm sitting here and it's suddenly like I got a hot spot on my back, like a hot finger was touching me right there below the left shoulder. I mean, I had to stop and look like what's behind me here? There's nothing here.
The universe is poking you.
Yeah, it was so distinct.
Well, the other thing that makes it more potent to me is to realize what you're really talking about, like with the words one concept, because you're really saying appropriateness to rule them all, appropriateness to find them,
exactly.
Then it really makes sense.
Exactly. And now we see, so by having this concept of appropriateness, we get into a very sophisticated understanding. Wow, I can use one concept to actually start to bring light into my unawareness. Not just light, but to bring other concepts into my unawareness, to bring the other concepts that already exist and unite them, tie them together, bind them. Yes. So it is a tool, in other words, appropriateness. It's not just a noun, it's a verb. See? So there's so many layers to this That's why I use it as an opening quote. Yeah, and keep in mind, it's much like the opening quote to the prologue that we spent 2 hours dissecting. This one too, it came about through much, right? Many layers to it. So it's a very big deal here. Now, we're not going to spend that much time on it because we've kind of got most of it already, and we'll just leave it there to unfold itself as the story goes through, because I want to pay attention to what Norma said, right? Lisa, will you read Norma's comment for me, please? Do you have it up or not? I know Bina has. If not, then Bina can read it. I just want to have it shared in a different voice to mine.
Awareness is merging it to us.
What does that mean to you? And you, Bina?
Well, it's like a pointer, perhaps. Like it's when we bring awareness to something, like when someone gives a takeaway or a repeat back, and everybody's listening with a capital L, that we merge into our understanding
Yes.
of what the person is trying to convey. Maybe not, I mean, you know, along with our own individual takeaways, when we really truly listen.
Yes. So one sentence, but look at the nuance and the profoundness and the sophistication in that sentence. Awareness is merging it, in other words, concepts, understandings, whatever it is, to us. Merging, not adding, merging. Binding, exactly, merging. Right. Now, I use the bind here, merging, and in the unawareness, merge, but it doesn't work from a poetry point of view, right? And I try to stay, that's the original says, bind them. But this binding, when we merge, are we not much more bound than we would be if we simply added? If I'm merging with you, I'm kind of bound to you, by implication. See, so the bind implies a merge because it's all of it coming together, right? This is a very profound. So what the quote? It goes into us, so we are united. Exactly, Norma. Just profoundness there. I mean, just a profoundness. And actually, Norma, I your first one there, because it is so profound. It is so huge here. I think this is worthy of being added into it here, right? I don't want to have worthy. I'm sorry I even used that word there because it implies hierarchy. But I feel, I mean, that it's going to add profoundly to, where's my thing here now? No, I know what happened. When I copied it in there, it's copying it in black text. So, so it's there, but we're not seeing it because of the black background. So, all right. Well, let's do this, and let's just take that right out there, and we'll just make a new. And I'll just have to type it. It's a bit of a peculiarity. So, you know what? Let's do this in a different way. So I want to keep that. Move slide. Yeah. And we just go and add it again, and then I'll just do it in a slightly different way. So I can keep this font. Yeah, I'll just type from here now. So Norma says, and then take the O out later. Awareness is, and I'm going to put the merging as a capital M, merging, right? Merging it to us, right? And then I can go home, right arrow, delete, and we go end, and we do shift enter, and we put this to no magic, right? That's the attribution there to no magic. All right, now we need to, it can't be sitting up there, it has to be put over here, right? That balanced? Everybody happy? Yeah. It's appropriately balanced. Yeah. There we go. All right. So most wonderful, Norma, most profound and most wonderful. Just one word. Lisa or Bina, either of you. would you please read? Whoever volunteers.
Bina, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, since Lisa's been reading already, and just from an energy management point of view. Bina, are you here to read, please? Oh, this is okay, Janet. I'm just so thrilled you are here, Janet. Even this little bit, it's worthwhile. And it's, if you get a break in between again, if we're still here, please come back again, Janet. So thank you for saying so too. Thank you for saying so. So I just love it. I just love it and love you too. Just that you here. It's so cool. So cool. All right, brilliant, brilliant. Bina, where'd you go? Bina, oh, maybe she's dropped off. Sometimes when Bina's connection drops, then it stays here and we don't know she can't hear us. So all right, I'll read them. I've already read it. So if you change your mind, just say, and then you can read to Lisa. It's just good practice,
Okay, Okay,
yeah.
I'll do
All
it.
right.
Okay.
See now in this moment, everybody listening, I want to appreciate what just happened there. Lisa stepped up right there. Right, Lisa? Right, Lisa?
Yes. Okay. You ready?
I am.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Just one word. I am here, thought Biella, at the school, the school of nobility, not for, she reminded herself. I am here to engage in noble living, to learn nobleness, to acquire new ways of living, new ways of being. The school of new nobility, nothing at all to do with heredity or historic nobility. Those were long dead. The new nobility were something else entirely. I had this, that last sentence there, it was no longer her speaking. It was like narration.
Correct. So, because we're going into a thought, so there's a subtle nuance there. But if you saw me grinning like a banshee, like a silly fool over here, it's because, man, am I enjoying hearing you reading this. I know you might, your natural humility thinks, no, I'm just saying that. No, I'm not. You bring it out, exactly what I intended. I could hear in your intent, in your sharing, in your emphasis, in your nuance. I heard you hearing and feeling the story.
Well, I feel like I know Biella a little bit.
Correct. But I mean, it's such a joy for me to hear it externally, right? Because I can hear what I intended to communicate, at least in you. You are hearing the intent here. And it was just a joy. Bina, did you hear that? Bina? Oh, come back and tell me you heard what I heard, Oh, man, this was delightful. But again, see, just for Norma, for Janet, for Elizabeth, and Ramsey and Althea, right? Everybody who's here. Did I get your name right there? Is it Althea? No. Why am I thinking I didn't pronounce it correctly? Altheus. Sorry,
Bina
Altheus.
Looks like she's there, but she's not.
Right. Well, this is frozen. I need to, because I was clicking to see the comments, right? So this is the live on my thing that's just frozen. I just need to refresh that. So Sher, where are you? Come Sher. She can't always come, but so you see, I have to bring this up. Yeah. So something was going on with Zoom. Yeah. Anyway. So see, I have to double click on it to bring up the comments on the right hand side here. But you see, my connection is very slow. It didn't even do that. So come on now. My connection is very slow. Come on, I want to turn off the sound. There we go. All right. Hey, Rasta, there's always more. Yes. No problem, Elizabeth. No problem. Yeah, please don't text and drive. So that's right. You're often driving. So yeah, I take that into. Okay, I must remember that a bit more. Michaela, I'm thrilled here. Michaela, I'm thrilled here. So we're just starting. We're just starting. So you haven't really missed much. So you see, Lisa, I have the two screens overlapping, so I can see the comments. But if I actually want to respond to a comment or click love on it, then of course I bring it to the foreground. So we're just starting the story and the rereading again. So on this here, a couple of points of subtlety, right? But I wanted to say, in Lisa's reading, she was a bit reluctant to read because, well, we're reading out and it's public and all that. But she stepped up. And this, we need to develop the skill of stepping up to say, well, I haven't done this before. It's a bit awkward. I don't know if I can, blah, blah. Just do it. Just do it, people. If you don't do it well, it doesn't matter. Can Lisa do it a little bit more? Well, according to me, no, but according to Lisa, she said, well, look, I was reading Biella's thoughts and then it shifted to narration thoughts. Now, typically thoughts, when you're reading a character, they're in inverted commas and you can get into character. But this, when you're reading it to yourself, you sort of know, right? That, that I am here to engage, to acquire new ways of thinking. And this might be her thoughts still, but they really are an additional thing, because there's actually a very slight little paragraph here. It doesn't quite come through in the slide here, but this is actually a new paragraph, right? Anyway, so look at the nuance that Lisa's reading. This is sophisticated reading skills, so much appreciated, right? So very cool. So I just love that. But I'm more appreciative of the fact that you did take that little extra step up, right? And that this is a profound thing, this ability to do this. And the more we practice that skill, the more we become comfortable in it. And after a while, it becomes like nothing. Very, very, very big deal. Very big deal. All right, so please continue reading. Now, again, Lisa, I appreciate we've been on Zoom already for, what, 3 hours now. So if your energy is a little lowish, I'll be happy to read, because it does take a lot of energy to do what we do for such an extended point of time, right? So I am appreciative of that. So again, if you don't feel like reading because of the energy, no problem at all, right? Yeah.
It's okay.
All right, I love it. Good.
The school of nobility, a school like no other, an entire planet to school, an entire planet to school, an entire culture and society of school, a school with no classroom, no teachers, no lectures, yet a phenomenal school, profound, effective, continuous, a school of joy, fun, excitement, and mystery, a school where learning was play. She'd been accepted from among so many all across the galaxy. A marvel to her. She'd been at the school a number of years, but still the wonder of it infused her.
Yeah. I have to end screen share because somebody's clicking admit. Brilliant. Michaela, also nicknamed Rashi, is joining us. So maybe we'll get her to read a little bit now. Brilliant. Wonderful. I love your readings. I'm really enjoying your readings here. Now, just to get to this concept of the school. So hello, Rashi, and hello, children. Are here in the background? Rashi's got just two wonderful children, three girls. So brilliant.
Hi,
So it's story time. So this is too magical. But this idea of an entire planet, in other words, an entire culture, that is school. This is now, when we think of school in our normal ways, we have different understandings of school, but they are all about learning in everything, right? You learn from nature, you learn from each other. Everything is always focused on learning and growth, but not learning the way we know it. So the subtlety here is to say, right, a school of joy, fun, excitement, and mystery. Our understandings, our associations with this term learning are usually rote, discipline, punishment, tests, all of this stuff, memorization. That's not learning. That's God knows what that is, but it's some abomination, not learning. Sorry. Right? So we want real, true learning, the learning of magic, the learning that your children, when they learn, look, they're excited to learn. You read them a story. What are they doing? They're learning. You talk to them, just any interaction. This is learning for them. It's a profound big deal. It's a joy. It's a thrill. That's what they want to bring back. Yes. This is the point of the new nobility, as the entire planet being the school of nobility. Of, not for. Yeah. It's of. You're learning about nobility. It's not for people who have nobility. Yes, that's just a little subtle distinction there he's making about this different point here. Brilliant, brilliant. So, all right, Rashi, we're going to hope that your children are going to be behaved, and please will you read the slide for us? We'll take
Yeah, two of them
a
are
chance.
asleep.
Oh, good. Okay, only one. All right. Brilliant. Read, please. Read, please.
Okay. Just one word. Okay, the first word is, I think, a challenge for me. This is Biella.
Biella. Yes, it's a complicated word to say.
Okay.
I put that in because I wanted to give Biella a very exotic name, because out in the future to say it's different. So there's a long story
Yeah.
behind this that I
So
still have to elaborate on.
you just
But
wanted to make it look
yeah.
alien.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it is difficult. And you see now, I'm being subtle here. We were talking about Lisa stepping up and you doing the same. Right. So this is a challenge, right? And I'm deeply appreciative of what you are doing. Right. So please continue. I mean, we've had a bit of practice with this, but this is a profound thing, and I'm very appreciative of it. Yes. Keep going. So
Okay. Her friends just called her Biella. Stroll past groves at gardens of every conceivable size, shape, hue, and texture. The more of nature inextricably linked to the new nobility. Uh, what is this?
lies.
Strides. Okay, there are so much new words for me. They're
Brilliant.
too much difficult.
Don't worry
But
about it. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Live strides. We'll supply them when you don't get them. Live strides. We'll give you the opportunity to
okay.
test what you think. Yeah. First.
Okay, conveyed Biella through gardens representing grace, courtesy, goodness, honor, virtue, integrity, communion, and more. Anyone could join the new nobility. No set definition constituted the new nobility. One just knew. No status it either. Harder to understand. A long time had been needed to establish this statuslessness. Okay, that's brilliant.
You got it. You got it.
Many had faded from the school when they realized their ambitions of personal attention would not be met. Now it was simply common knowledge to new nobility and ego. Vanity, self-importance, or fame didn't go together.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Uh,
Brilliant.
I think,
Now, go ahead.
yeah, I tried.
You did a great job. You did a great job. Right.
Yeah, that's great. But that's too much for a person who is shy like me.
Yeah, but see, we see the brilliance of it, though. But look, Rashi, when you first came, and I asked you to read, it was much more tricky for you, much more difficult for you, right? You struggled a lot more, but because you've been practicing, you're able to do this now and read to others and in public, right? And you succeeded. You read, we understood, and we could hear you. We could hear you making that effort, and that is the important part here. We heard you. See, and this is what why I'm asking you and Lisa to share and read here. And while anybody who comes, right, you don't have to. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to practice. But I'm also sharing the environment that we're in, where it is an environment where
I mean,
exactly. Exactly.
Obviously, I mean, so English is not her first language, and I'll tell you
Obviously.
what, as someone who is trying to learn a second language, it's very impressive.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
not easy.
Exactly. So see, we appreciate the effort, we appreciate the learning, but also I want those who maybe not really understanding that this isn't coming out of nowhere, right? It's part of way of impeccability to practice this expression, to practice your moreness, to practice your integrity, to practice your self-confidence, your self-worth, to say, I am willing to do this, and also to start letting go of ego. When you first started this, right? So I'm going to use you as a bit of an example here, Rashi. When we first started doing Way of Impeccability and I asked you to read, when you couldn't pronounce a word, oh my God, it was like the end of the world. I could just see you blushing and covering your face, and it was like a big deal when you couldn't pronounce words. And now look at it, it's like, all right, you could, and you just kept going, and you tried, and well, what is this? You said like lithe, okay, but you even tried to pronounce it right. Okay, so you didn't get it right, but it wasn't the end of the world. Your ego wasn't dented or bruised or affronted or affected or whatever, right? So a big shift, yes.
Yeah.
So
and I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
go.
I was trying to do this from months. Even I was not able to come live, and I
Exactly.
had that intent, but I was shy, and but this week I decided that I will do this.
Wonderful.
There should be some moreness.
Yes. In other words, Rashi said application. Without application, it's all meaningless. In other words, I can't just say, well, I'm learning to be more, I'm learning to step outside of myself, I'm learning to be a bit more comfortable with my ego. I got to prove it to myself. Did you just prove to yourself today that you can do this, that your ego is not a restricting mechanism and factor in your life? Did you not prove that to yourself today?
Yeah, I'm feeling happy.
I should hope so. You should be celebrating. What you did today is a big deal. Yes, somebody else may say, yeah, big deal. But it is a big deal. It's a very big deal because where we are at is not always on the same place, right? So, what's a big deal for some is not a big deal for other. But this is part of our discernment to appreciate, like Lisa did, that what you did was a big deal, right? Because Lisa had a little bit of it, but man, if Lisa had to do this in Spanish, which I'm assuming is the second language you're learning, that would be a whole other story, right, Lisa?
Oh, I couldn't even do it. It wouldn't be recognizable.
Okay. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And, to celebrate that moreness, because we heard your moreness. We heard your moreness too, Lisa, when you were reading, because you were putting nuance, you were putting feeling in it, right? And that's not easy to do. I know from the reading, to read a character and trying to give life to this character. It's a profound skill that has to be learned. And of course, when you're practicing learning, it's not going to always come out right. Like you didn't make the distinction between the reader and the narrator, which is very sophisticated. I was very impressed that you even mentioned it. This is a big deal. So practice, application. It's what we're here for. And this is all about what we are doing. Yes, it's too wonderful. Pina, where are you? Come back. The new nobility were there to serve. They were there to be experienced. They were there to be. They added to the world around them without trying to, simply through being in that unique way. Why am I reading this? Isn't this paragraph exactly what we did? They were there to be experienced. Didn't we just experience, Lisa? Didn't we just experience Rashi? We did. You were being, and they added to the world around them without trying to. Were either of you trying to add to the world around you? I'm really asking, not a rhetorical question. Were you trying to add to the world around you specifically, or you, Lisa? Exactly. You were just doing, you were just being, right, Lisa? Lisa may have stepped away. Right. But I'm assuming that this is a yes also for Lisa, right? And it says, now, it's a nice nuance here. Simply through being in that unique way, ... That ellipsis there is very, very important, right? It is cueing us to say in that unique way. In other words, there's a lot more going to come about this unique way. It's not a simple thing. So we're going to find out what is exactly this unique way of the new nobility. In our context here, it is the absence of the superiority paradigm nonsense, right? So this unique way is being comfortable with doing things in an entirely different way for different motivations, different agendas, right? Like you guys here now. And most people who come on in the superiority paradigm, they're going to say, how can I read this in the best possible way? How can I look good? That wasn't your agenda. Yeah, you were just looking to do it with excellence, not necessarily to get recognition or reward, but simply for excellence's own sake. Yes, and to practice, to step up, to explore yourself, expand yourself, own things, self-prove to yourself. Very profound, very, 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 very profound. Elizabeth, when you're not when you're not driving, and Norma and Ramsey, and all of you, right? Please, I'm going to emphasize this over and over again. I know many of you are busy with other stuff and cannot come on Zoom, but coming on Zoom is a profound. Just mute for a second there, please, Rashi. There we go. Thank you. So when we come on Zoom, this is a real opportunity to extend yourself and expand yourself, right? It's a profound opportunity. And also, I want to emphasize, this is not a club. And don't feel like an outsider. Inclusivity is a big, big, big deal to us. So by sharing your comments, by connecting, Altheus, I want to hear from you so that I can include you more. Yes, I want you to be included. I know people are shy, but please don't be. This is a different type of an environment, right? As Rashi has just demonstrated to us, that you can be a little tentative or even awkward or stumble. Somebody else read the other day, and they struggled and they had to reread it, and doesn't matter. This is not an issue to us. We don't care. We don't care. We appreciative of your intent, your motivations, your moreness, right? So we are looking at things in a very, very different way. And this appreciation, this celebration of difference, this was a beautiful exemplification there from both Lisa and Rashi. Right? It's a very profound thing. Bina, where did you go? Come back. All right, so now we are going to go through the tasks and exercises, which yesterday I skipped over because I wanted to get the story out. So now let me ask you, Ramsey, if you're still there, Elizabeth, if you're still there, can the Zoomer still see you as I do? I don't know, depending on if you're on the computer, you'll see me on the side. If you're on the phone, you won't. So they will likely, because I don't know, maybe Rashi's on the phone, so she won't. Lisa, I don't know. Lisa's also on the phone, so no, they don't see me as you do right now. Now, if you mean this figuratively,
well, I can see you. You're off on the side.
Oh, you do see that?
Yeah, it's inset. It's inset on top of the slide.
Right, right. Okay, brilliant.
I
okay,
don't know
I wasn't
how
sure.
Norma's seeing you.
Yeah, well, the phone and the computer is different, so I don't know. Maybe different phones show things. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Maybe Norma means that.
What was that? Yeah, what was her deeper intent? Does she mean, do we really see you like she does? Probably not, right? Because she has a different perspective than we do, right?
So
That's
elaborate.
Appropriate.
Elaborate, Norma. Elaborate, Norma. Elaborate. So we don't know. I don't know. Well, you do see me in a very unique way, Norma. So this is a brilliant way to see me. So I hope so. If they would see me the way you see me, this would be fantastic. Yeah. So just Norma, just moreness, just love your moreness. Just very precious, very precious. I visualize Zoom as a little box. Right. Well, it's not really, but okay, I get it. I understand. So, all right. So now I want to ask Norma and Elizabeth and Ramsey and Altheus, and well, Janet has left now, but whoever else is here, right, that I might not be seeing who is here. Right. I want to hear from you. That There are other people that are here. Hold on one second. So I can name them too. Tommy, hello, Tommy. Bino, whoever, or Norma. If people come and like and that. So welcome, Tommy. Welcome that you here. Brilliant, man. Brilliant. I love to see. I don't always get to hover over the like or the love things there to see who's joined. And usually, Bino or Norma or somebody helps me out with that. So what I was saying to Altheus, this applies to you as well, Tommy. This is really, really open. I really, really, really want to hear from you guys. I don't care what it is, even if it's just a hello or a yes, or it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Share. Yeah, I'm not looking for agreements. I'm looking for sharing. Yes, I'm not looking for agreements. And we are operating in a different paradigm over here, right? So to continue on this now, I want to hear from you guys, Tommy, Altheus, Elizabeth, because, Rashi and Lisa and Bina, I can ask them directly, but I want to hear from you guys in comments. Do you think a school for nobleness, right? Actual nobleness, not hereditary, not titles, not that nonsense. Actual nobleness is possible, is realistic. Yeah, do you think so? Norma? Is possible and or realistic. Yeah. So we have to wait a little bit because there's a bit of delay. So give some time to formulate our answers here.
Well, I sure do, honestly, because if it's all about how it's taught. I mean, if they're brought up in the beginning with that concept, then of course it's possible.
Exactly.
Of course it's realistic.
Exactly.
But now, it would mean an entire culture would need to change first.
Correct. Also, in this particular culture, as we're going to go further, that because nobleness is a choice, a free choice. It is something that's bonus. It's not actually taught in the schools in the greater overall political system, which is the agglomeration, because now we already said planet, right? So by implication, there are other planets, not the only planet, right? So as we come to understand the greater planet configuration, it's called the agglomeration. There's a whole chapter about how that name came about. Very cool chapter. And it involves optional ethics, which is really profound, and other stuff to do with ethics. Very cool chapter. Anyway, so in the agglomeration, the children aren't taught specifically all the principles of nobleness because it's a bonus. It's a choice. You don't have to do it, right? So now, though, when you get to be a little bit, you come of age, you become a teenager. And yes, the new nobility are a major part of the culture. So everybody's aware of them, like we're sort of maybe aware of, I don't know, monasteries or Hollywood, two ends, right? I don't want to equate it with either, right? But you're aware that these are life choices, or the sports world, professional athletes or whatever, right? Art. You're aware that this is a life path that you can choose. So that's where they come to Nobelia, to the planet, and at least apply to be an aspirant, right? Because as we're going to go along, we're going to see that, as you mentioned, Lisa, you have to have this. Yes, it's a cultural thing, but not necessarily that it's going to start off from as a baby. Yes, other qualities will come into it, the things of Way-Of-Impeccability, because this applies to everybody. And, integrity, this is just this that you want to teach your children. But nobility, you may teach them this, but that's not necessarily that you're going to teach them in a way that they have to follow it. We do say your honesty and your integrity, those are kind of have-tos, but nobility is optional. So this is a slight nuance here. So typically those that come to Nobelia, to the school, who apply, to them this wanting more, they want to be noble. This idea appeals to them, even though they may be very humble in acknowledging it and feel a bit awkward to say that they want this. Right? This is something that because it's such a deep intent to moreness, it's a different intent to the intent to goodness. It's an intent to moreness. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to be distracted, but I had a little hummingbird come visit here the other day. It was very profound to me. So I thought maybe I'm seeing it again. Just came right here because the window's right here now where I'm touching this the fly screen on the window, and it was right there. Like, I mean, I can't extend my arm fully, but if I extended fully, I would have been able to touch the hummingbird. So it was that close.
You should
Anyway,
get yourself a hummingbird feeder, and then he'll be with you all
yeah,
the time.
right. Now there's only one problem with hummingbird feeders, right? That if you go away for a weekend, those hummingbirds that have come to rely on your food, if it runs out of food, even for a day or two, hummingbirds need to feed every day. They don't have much reserves, so they become
Well, I don't
very.
believe they don't lose their ability to go find flowers.
I understand though, but see, what happens with the feeders is you create an environment that has food to support a greater community of hummingbirds than the natural environment can support. So when that food runs out, you go away or whatever. Now suddenly there are too many for the natural environment, and then some of them unfortunately die. No? So
Well,
it's just something.
that maybe
Yeah,
that's true in some places. It's interesting here though, because I have 2 hummingbird feeders.
yeah.
I've only ever seen the same 2 hummingbirds around here.
That's that.
But I suppose that's true. If somebody did find out.
Maybe, yeah. That's fascinating. That's really, really fascinating that you only see the same 2 hummingbirds. That's incredible. Yeah.
But they
Well,
do
that gives.
fight over the feeders.
Wow, there
They
you
fight
go.
over them.
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard them, the hummingbirds?
Oh yes, I love it. Like you can
Oh,
hear
oh.
their wings and then they chirp at the same time.
Right, right. But generally, when you see a hummingbird out there, you very seldom hear them because, of course, it's very soft. They're chirping. You have to be fairly close to hear only the wings and they're chirping. And I heard that little hummingbird. That's what drew my attention. It was calling me, So, when they said little birdie was speaking to me, I don't know what it is. To me, it was Norma talking to me at the time. That's what I thought. So, anyway, so just a little shout out for
He was
Norma there.
saying, Sil, hi Sil.
Yep, yep,
Hi
yep, yep, yep,
Sil.
yep, yep, yep. So yes, absolutely. I'm using the word school in the very broad sense. Before universities came along, like back in like in the Greek times, right, when they had those academies, they called them. That's the school was sort of the term, and that really meant university more. So universities are a bit of a later term, but yes, absolutely more of a university because they very much got universality built into it. And Elizabeth says possible and real so much that it is what life is. School to connect, apply, add. Precisely. Precisely. Now, life is the school. It's not necessarily a school for nobility because nobility is bonus, but life is absolutely a university, a school for awareness, which is slightly different. We are taking a very particular instance of awareness, and we are saying, you know what, for some of us, we want that more. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. It's bonus. It's optional. This is my predilection. This is my desire. This is my heart. It's like going to art school, right? It's my heart. It's my passion. It's my desire, right? So we are deep into this moreness of wanting to learn, to know, to be more, and to understand more, and to have these tools of sophistication and awareness, etc., right? This is not something that's for everybody. And again, just because it's not for everybody, there's no implication at all whatsoever that this is better. No, it's just different. Like where people go and do the Olympics. I say, wow, well done to you guys. This is fantastic, but you're not going to catch me going to your training schools. Thank you very much. Hell no.
Well, it may not,
Yeah.
so it may not be for everybody, but learning the tools of how to learn, learning the tools of how to live, which are not taught in school at all.
Exactly.
I can see that being a very possible potential for the future. And the reason for that is because now you can, everything else you need to know, if you want facts, if you want to know math, if you want to know history, if you want to know English, that's all so available now on the internet that it does leave room for these special schools, that along the lines perhaps of, the special schools that are currently out there. The names kind of You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
there are
yes.
a few schools out there that for kids that are
like Montessori.
that do try to. Yes, exactly. Like they teach those skills. They try to, along with the 3 R's. But I see that as quite possible in the future. Not only possible, but it's really it's not just mandatory. It's not mandatory. It's critical. It's critical for this evolution of humanity in a positive manner.
Exactly. In other words, it's to take Way of Impeccability and bring it into the schools, right? Because Way of Impeccability is not, it's not a religion, it's not a belief system, right? There's no belief involved, none, no belief involved, right? This is, I mean, look, I have people from all different parts of the world, Rashi, Bina, and Rashi's in the same country as Bina. But Bina is a practicing devout Muslim. You probably never even know this if I didn't say so. Now, the only reason I say so is because Bina is very open about it. It's not an issue for her, right? And it doesn't conflict whatsoever. And we have atheists, and we have Christians, and we have Buddhists, and Hindus, and all sorts of, it doesn't matter. Or people who are into spirituality, whatever. It doesn't affect it. All it does is it enables you to be more appropriate with whatever your particular passion is or your particular belief. Yes. So Way of Impeccability transcends belief. It allows you to be more of an artist, more of a Muslim, more of an athlete, whatever you're doing, right? Whereas nobility is that choice, like art. Yes. It's choice. It's choice. So nobility. So the school, yes, it teaches the basics that are also taught elsewhere, or it's more than basics. I mean, Way of Impeccability is in the very fundamental toolbox. But now we are taking that toolbox, which of course the new nobility apply, and we are saying, what are we going to do with this particular toolbox? Well, we have this predilection for moreness, for nobility, for spirituality, etc. Right? So we are going to go as far as we can go. And this is what the new nobility. So it's a special instance of what you are saying, Lisa. So in the school of nobility is, of course, Way of Impeccability. And out in the agglomeration, and there is a parallel series to this. It's called Clara's Class. And this is about a school out in the agglomeration where the school is owned by the new nobility, but they don't teach you to be noble. It's a regular school, but it's like those Waldorf or the Montessori schools, right? So it's teaching the regular stuff, but also with a bit extra, right? And they're not trying to prime you to be a new noble. No, they're trying to prime you to follow your path, whatever that is. If this is your path, fine.
Right, exactly. Like when you say, what are you going to do with these tools? It's like whatever you desire, whatever your heart desires.
Exactly. So when we understand that the school for nobility is not saying this is what everybody should learn. No, it's there for those who have this particular passion for nobility, for moreness, for sophistication, for depth of understanding, for discernment, and all the other stuff, right? And this is what makes me just love everyone who comes here so much. Yes, Norma and Elizabeth and Janet and Ramsey, because this is a passion to them. They want to know more. Like you, Lisa, you want to know more. Bina, you want to know more. Yes, I mean, Bina's self-conception, we spoke about this earlier in our session before, right? Spirit warrior as a self-conception. Bina's one that she came up with at that time, it may have shifted now, but she still uses it, is power learner. And we can have many self-conceptions, not just once, right? She considers herself a power learner. Yeah, very profound, very profound. Right. All right, so let's go to this. I love that, by the way, Elizabeth. And Norma both, yes, definitely more like a university. Yes, absolutely. And it ties well.
And I like your comment about universality rather than a university.
Exactly. It's a university, right? It's all in there, right? So which brings us to a little fun. When I started this and I put the programs out, I had a platform where I put it, and I still have it somewhat, to have this be a platform where others could bring their programs, and we have this little mini university of different things. So like, okay, again, they're all representing moreness. But let's just say, for instance, Janet, who teaches art right now, this is her job. This is what she does every day. She has online art classes. I think she has them in person too, actually. But let's say she wants to start incorporating Way-Of-Impeccability into her art, so that she's teaching art and using art to also share Way-Of-Impeccability, because it's a very profound thing to do when you have a specific focus and you combine the two. Way-Of-Impeccability will enhance the communication and the learning of art by your students, and also provide them something else beyond the art, but also because it's being shared in the connection of art, which is their passion, they're going to hear it better than they would if they were coming to it without art as the draw, right? It makes it more pertinent and relevant, in other words, right? Or gaming, you could be, I mean, why I connect impeccability to gaming very easily, right? So when we understand this and how this works, it changes our whole understanding of what we're about. It's very, very profound. So I lost my point there where I was going somewhere, but I wanted to go on to the next question there. Thank you, Norma. Thank you. Thank you. There will come a time. I see the difference. Thank you for articulating that. My pleasure, Elizabeth. It's a very profound difference. So we are here because we have a particular passion. Yes. And we are looking at the special instance. I just love this painting, by the way. It's one of my favorites, just the way it's done. And again, the intent of this face, yes, that intent for moreness, looking upward, looking into the spirit, yes, and this appreciation in the way the hand is there. I can't even put that into my hand the way it is there. I can't quite emulate that. Yes, that there's a nuance here, very profound nuance. Yes, all right, maybe a little much lipstick, but okay, never mind. Yeah. So also, well, we'll come into this later. The new nobility have a very particular thing with their appearance, but we'll come to that later. With that, in that unique way, when that comes in later chapters, we'll get to hear about that unique way of theirs. So what does nobility, nobleness mean to you in detail? Now, I wish Sher was here, because Sher's doing this as a course, as a program, right? So she's actually doing these tasks and exercises, and she'll have written this all out. But unfortunately, not here. So we'll just have to make do without and come up with our own, right? So because this is a question. I forgot to say. I forgot to tell her. All right, hang on. She asked me to let her know when we're doing. To let her know ahead of time. So, sorry, forgot to alert. We on live now. All right. So sorry, Yvette. Sorry. I did promise to let her know, and then I forgot because we were so involved with what we're doing. Yeah. So okay. Anyway, so I was looking for Sher's thing there to see where Sher is, but all right, I'll just trust that Sher will come when she comes. So what does nobility, nobleness, those three as one, this concept, because I keep differentiating between them, because these concepts have baggage, for one, and two, they are difficult concepts to bind to our greater appropriateness and bind to our other concepts like impeccability, etc. So what does this mean for you, Lisa and Bina? And of course for you guys there in chat also. Yeah. Tommy, Altius, I want to hear from you guys. Or I don't know if it's guys, female, doesn't matter. I'm using guys in the overall. You folks.
It's not easy for me on the fly to answer that question.
Yes. And that's a brilliant answer.
I mean, you've thought about it for years.
Correct.
And you can ramble it off.
Right. But
Lisa, I can't do that. Not honestly.
That's an appropriate response. And I'm so pleased you say that, which is why I ask you, because I'm not necessarily, that is a response that is utterly appropriate. If you can't say, your integrity says, I can't do this question justice. And this isn't a question for on-the-fly answering. It's meant as a task and an exercise which you are going to spend a few days pondering, thinking about, writing it out in detail, right? So absolutely an appropriate response. Absolutely appropriate, yes. So this is something that we need to think about. This is absolutely something we have to take seriously. This is a huge question, a very profound question. So thank you for that. That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say, by the way. I know I can't prompt it, of course, I have to just hope and trust. But this is most awesome, Lisa. You muted still. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it required a response. Sorry.
Oh no, I just saw your
I'm
box
just
going yellow.
listening.
Yeah, no, when I see your box going yellow, that shows me that you're talking, but you muted. But I guess it's just staying yellow. So I know that it wasn't that. I just noticed it there.
Oh
Bina?
no, I wasn't talking.
Okay. Then I see it now. It's just getting stuck there. But yeah, Bina, anything on this for you on nobility, nobleness?
It's as Lisa says that it's a very difficult question to answer right now. But I was thinking that nobleness. Okay, yes, nobility itself is a big, huge deal. But nobleness can have like some degree of nobleness. We can think about like what this could be, along with so much more. That nobleness is choosing and being capital G good without having any obligation to be or do.
Yeah.
So it's a big question, but nobleness, with the nobleness, I can say that yes.
Yeah.
This is also included for me.
Yeah. 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 It's a big deal. It's a very, very, very big deal. Very big deal. Very big deal. Okay. So I was hoping some other people would come join a bit here. So, but they're not on now. So all good. All good. All good. I love inclusivity, by the way. Inclusivity is such an absolutely big, 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 big deal here. It's a massive thing, inclusivity. Massive. It really is. I feel it presses on me inside when I feel somebody's not included. It's a big issue. Yeah. That's why, Tommy, Altius, anybody listening to this, even on replay, share, people, share. Please, try and step out of that and share. Because, you'll very soon see how included you really are. That's not just an ideal thing here. Idle thing that I'm saying. What does the old nobility represent to you? And by contrast, what would the new nobility be as you might imagine it? I'll answer this one. So for me, the old nobility represents manipulation, abuse, lying, deception, cheating, subversion, particularly. Subversion, you say? Oh, it's not a term we hear every day. Subversion is when you do something under the guise of something else, right? When you come from inside, from underneath to subvert. Yeah. So what do the old nobility, what were they doing? They were subverting this idea of noble to give them a status and to cover up their horribleness. Yeah, because really they ended up being horrible. And maybe originally this wasn't a way to justify having a title to say, well, actually I'm noble and I'm doing this for you. I'm here on your behalf and blah, blah, which might have at one point actually had some actuality to it. But over time, or maybe even originally, this may have just been a very cunning, manipulative technique. I don't know. I don't know where this really started. It could have been either way, right? But just understanding the superiority paradigm, this was absolute abuse. We're getting that.
Can this old nobility also is that awareness? Yes.
Yes, correct. A particular kind of
Yes.
awareness, a particular chosen awareness
Okay. I was
field.
just saying that. Okay.
And
Yes.
yes. And would you say, Lisa, Bina, and Lisa, that nobility
Let me
is?
finish.
Sorry. You broke off. You broke up, so I didn't hear you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was say that was based on the awareness of their own lackness. So they just that whole process of was just keep hiding, keep covering it up so that it will not get exposed by others. So the whole idea of covering every ability, even the goodness and everything was so artificially layered up.
Sorry, I'm giving it a little bit of pause because you were breaking up a bit, you see. So that delay, I thought you were done, and that's how I jumped. So I didn't mean to interrupt you at all. I thought you were just done or breaking up, and I couldn't hear you. So sorry about that, Bina. Sorry. Bina, will you read the comments, please? Or Lisa from Elizabeth, where Elizabeth says, "For me, it means." Will you read those, please? Either of you.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes. I need to. You are again for Ram's.
You're breaking up very badly, Bina. I think you may need to leave and come back. Sorry. We lost you there, and you muted now too. So you muted, Bina. Oh, yeah. Well, by the way, just as a general thing for Zoom, if you're on Zoom with other people, if you find your connection or your communication starts stuttering like that, just leave and come back. It usually resets it, and you'll see with Bina. So Lisa, you feel like reading Elizabeth's comments there and Norma's comments, please?
Okay, just the last
Well,
ones.
from where Elizabeth says,
from
for
the top.
me,
Okay,
for me, it
so
means hope.
Elizabeth says, for me, it means hope things can get better, change for lasting goodness for our children. Yeah. She must be referring to nobleness.
Yes. What does nobility, nobleness mean to you?
Being
yes.
Noble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's a very nuanced, very particular understanding. It means hope things can get better, change for lasting goodness. So this is this is why I ask these questions and why sharing is. Technically, some professor might say, oh, that doesn't really say what nobleness is, but we can understand what it means for Elizabeth. And the question was not what does nobleness mean? It says to you. To you. So Elizabeth answered the question.
Nobility there. Yeah, nobility.
Right.
And then she says the next one, oh, that's Norma, the next one.
Yeah.
Is nobleness, strength, and good manners, I guess.
Yes, well-mannered.
Well
Yes. Oh, there she goes on. Yeah.
Well-mannered, fairness, and strength.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Positive qualities.
Yeah. Then Elizabeth chimes in again and says, transmute loneliness, uplift all, particularly the formerly oppressed.
Wow.
Ooh. So that really implies a lot, doesn't it? Like connecting together and transmuting loneliness, that through our connection and community, there is it just transmutes it, it's gone.
Exactly. It transforms it into something more. Transmute usually has this implication, not just of changing something, but when you transmute it, it's going into a moreness of some kind, right? It has that implication of going into a moreness, right? Something higher beyond more, right? But now let's apply capital H, hearing here. Do you not hear Elizabeth's heart?
Yes, Elizabeth has a lovely heart.
Exactly.
And we also uplifting all, particularly the oppressed.
Exactly. And
she's
also
a very caring soul.
Exactly. But also this first one, transmuting loneliness. Yes. Elizabeth is putting it out to everybody. But those that are connected to this particular intent and predilection and wanting of moreness, they do tend to find themselves a little bit alone or lonely in the world. Why? Because it's not particularly common. And when you deeply in the superiority paradigm world, you can be very disconnected to what's around you. Yes. And this will definitely cause that feeling of loneliness, which is another reason why I want to do these lives, because here is an opportunity where you can be you, where you don't have to go to your job and you have to play the game and all of that stuff, where it's very difficult for you to share this kind of stuff because the environment just does not allow for it. And appropriateness says, no, you can't do this there, right? You can try, little bit by little bit in small pieces, but not to this extent, right? So this is a very big point. So I hear you, Elizabeth, right? And also this formerly oppressed, right? So Elizabeth is telling in that one comment, she is sharing much about herself, not only in her intents, but her relationship, her history, etc. Right? It's very powerful. Plus, you are also sharing your intuitive foresight, right? That Elizabeth is connecting to what's to come in the story. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa, you muted.
Oh, sorry. My wayward child, Brisa, got into something and I wasn't muted. My apologies.
The O wasn't for what I was saying. It was something else. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Too brilliant. Now I want to know what was your wayward child up to?
Well, one of her ways of getting attention when she wants to play with me is to like just grab something like a rag or anything that's laying around. And then she'll run up to me and wagging her tail, showing me that she has it in her mouth. And then she runs off with it, wanting me to chase her.
Massive context shift. I thought you meant your own inner wayward child, actually. I thought you were literally talking about, inner aspect of yourself, but you were talking about one of your dogs.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Not this time.
I heard inner wayward child, but you meant actually your external one of them. So brilliant. So this point, Elizabeth, it comes much later, I think, after chapter 10. Chapter 10 is a very seminal chapter, but this point of that formerly oppressed, the lost, and the lonely, this is in the new nobility, call them innocents with a T, right? I have to write this out because there's no way to pronounce it. Right? Innocence in the world, right? When I say innocence in the world, I can say innocence or innocence, right? It's very hard to pronounce it differently because even though the words are spelled very differently and mean very different things, they sound exactly the same. I mean, they are connected, yes, but innocence, the beings, people who are innocents, like you, Elizabeth, like you, Norma, like you, Ramsey, no matter how sophisticated you might be, and you, Lisa, and Bina, yes, and hopefully I regard myself too as an innocent. I never lost my innocence. No matter how much sophistication I made every effort to acquire, and I really made an effort to learn to be sophisticated. And I still feel like I have tons more to learn, but at least a little bit I acquired relative to what I didn't have. It's a lot relative to what I didn't have, as little to what I can have. But nonetheless, I never lost my innocence. Never, ever. And this desire, this intent that Norma shares and Elizabeth shares and Ramsey said, we hear from you guys. It shows that you are innocence. And this concept of innocence as a particular kind of a being, it comes later into the story. And there's a story to that story when we meet Dream Deer, the character. Her name in the story is called Dream Deer. So just again, it's one of those, put a pin in it, Elizabeth. We're going to come to this. Yeah, it's a very big part of the intent of this and what the new nobility do, and they go out into the agglomeration, etc., etc. So, and the new nobility, I was saying the old nobility represents to me manipulation, abuse, subversion, particularly how they subvert should, right? And how this manipulation is involved. All of the extremes, really, the extreme abuse of the superiority paradigm under the disguise of something magical and more, which allowed them to keep going for a long time. It was a stroke of evil genius, as it were. To call these horrors nobles. Terrible. right? And of course, the image, the pretense, all of this, it kept them going for a long time. We see how this is falling apart in our world today, yes, where your commitment to being a royal can't even last because of all sorts of pressures, right? It's like, man, how does this concept work? And of course, the whole thing of hereditary, it's completely flawed. Anybody who paid any attention to nobility and hereditary over the centuries will see that, yes, you may have a lot going on, but that doesn't mean your children necessarily inherit this. It's a myth. It's a myth. It applies to physical characteristics, yes, but not necessarily to psychological ones. It may have some predilections, but no, it's a myth. It's a fantasy that people want to pursue, but the reality doesn't support it. What all came to you in this opening section? Share anything which occurred to you, you felt, thought, connected to, etc. Particularly what you feel as our focus and that of the new nobility is to be deliberate with what we feel and how we get our way of being. That's an interesting phraseology there, so, and how we get our way of being. Yeah, I'll leave it. Trust it. So anything that came to anybody in the preceding section? In no sense. Wow. Wow. I never thought of taking innocence to say in no sense. Yes, in a sense, unfortunately, innocence is also ignorance and naivety. But when we are going to capital I innocence, it is the deliberate choice of goodness, a refusal to pay attention and immerse in nonsense, to maintain that state of purity. Yeah, like in this picture here. That's why I like it. If we look at this picture, and do you not see the innocence of this character as well simultaneously as a sophistication? Is it just me? Lisa, do you see both?
I see sophistication. I don't really see innocence.
In the way the eyes are right there, and the way they have that, you don't see that the deeper innocence there, in terms of an innocence, in a sense of a purity, of a desire for the beauty, the moreness, and like this could be a picture of Elizabeth, no?
Okay.
Or you?
You know what? It's appropriate to you.
Yeah.
You chose it.
Yeah, I understand, but I was hoping, yeah, like I said to you, because it's not my art, I try to find the best that I can represent of sophistication,
but it is
and
your
also,
art, though,
yeah,
right?
I mean, well, in a sense that I've curated it, yes, but yes, this picture is predominantly showing sophistication, but I feel I do see a bit of innocence here in the eyes, in that upwardness, the openness, right? If we take innocence to be openness and the purity, I mean, there's no meanness in this person, there's no manipulativeness, so on and so forth, right? See, there's the innocence coming back.
Well, to me, the finger in the mouth is kind of almost sexual, so that kind of.
Oh, you mean this one? Yeah. Oh, I don't even notice
Yeah.
that finger. Yeah. All right. It could be. I mean, that's an unfortunate part of it. But this is. I never paid any attention to it whatsoever. I only saw the sand. Actually, now that you mention it, I'm sort of paying attention to it. Yeah. But
To me,
to
she
me, it's,
looks like the classic Marilyn Monroe, which
yeah.
and
But
Marilyn Monroe did
yeah.
have innocence. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why all the
Exactly.
guys loved her.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm
Exactly.
not
Oh,
giving you
no,
the
no,
answers
you're
you're really
absolutely
looking for.
correct. You're absolutely correct. And what sadly with Marilyn is that we only see that, and a lot of people thought her a bit shallow and a bit empty and all of that, and a bit stupid and all that. But she spent all of her time reading. She was obsessed with reading, right?
No, she was
And
very intelligent,
she had
and
a
you're
lot
right.
more
She
than
was
people realize.
insatiable for knowledge. Yep.
Exactly.
She was.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, she would be an ideal aspirant, but we only saw that side of her that the media pushed. They didn't show the other side of her. I have a very profound story about Marilyn, dying of a broken heart. A really sad story. But nonetheless, it's a profound story. Elizabeth says, implying we make our feelings and take responsibility for transmuting them. Yes, yes. Transmuting them. Yes. So yeah, I think this is an inverse of the Marilyn pictures, in that we're showing the sophistication more clearly. And this at least for me, this finger on the mouth here, yes, can be seen from the sexual point, but it's not, or is seductive more than sexual. But to me, it's more that ponder of, like children do. Even a sophisticated person can have that. Children do that. They put the finger on the lip like that when they're going, when they're thinking. Yeah. You seen that, Lisa, or no? Do you know what I
No,
mean?
but to answer your question about the opening section and sharing what
sure,
occurred to me, like I felt, that I felt Biella's excitement for the newness and the what she was about to encounter in the new school. She's all excited about the potentiality of the of learning.
Yes, exactly.
In this new way.
Right. And in that very first opening paragraph, we get two things happening, right? Initially, we have to assume that she is new to the school, because what she's saying, yeah, that's typically something you say on day one. But then there's a little bit of extra sophistication there. And let's go back to that slide, right? Which is what this is all about, right? It's in the second slide, right? I am here, thought Biella, at the school. The school of nobility. I mean, we're seeing her nuance, her sophistication in this understanding, but also we're seeing her innocence. I'm here. She's excited about this, right? This is a big deal, right? And then there's a little bit of explanation, and then in the new one, it comes a little bit here. She'd been at the school a number of years, but still the wonder of it infused her. So now we take that original assumption that she's new to the school, and we say, oh, this is a sophisticated girl. Because even though she's been there a number of years, she hasn't lost this sophistication, right? And we say girl, but actually in the story, Biella's actually older than the aspirants by quite a bit. She came to the school very late. She'd done a whole big, long, extended tour of the whole agglomeration, and that's a pre-story. It comes in the series before this one, right? We have from when she leaves home at 16, and she goes on this whole long tour of the agglomeration. So she comes to it very late, and she's already essentially a new noble by the time she gets there, because she encounters the new nobility on her travels, and they invite her to come because they recognize her in this. And it's a wonderful story on this one planet, which she ends up pretty much owning. Yes, owning, literally. Anyway, long story. It's a very, very, very involved story. There's layers upon layers, lots of moreness involved.
It is a long story.
Yeah. But that's the fun of it. And again, it's that immersion into it. Things flow from it, right? So I've always enjoyed that in my own reading. When there's moreness, and there's moreness upon moreness, and we want to know where does Biella come from? How does she happen? The backstory, all of that. We'll get to it, right? And by I'll share little snippets, Biella is a dream. I had a dream. Well, this is after I'd written the Biella story, right? So I'd already written it. And one night I had this dream, and I heard this knocking. Yeah, and a lot of people have had knocking dreams. Yes. And I really thought in the dream it was one of those times when it was like a real knock. Yes. And then in the dream, well, I didn't wake up like sometimes you do from that knocking. But in the dream, I went in the dream and like, what's going on? And in my dream, there was a baby left on my doorstep. And then the dream ended. That was it. Yeah. So I took that.
That's really, really kind of a profound dream. Like, knock, knock, pay attention.
Exactly. And this is how Biella comes to Sylvie Nadar. Her mom is called Sylvie Nadar, right? Sylvie is her name. Nadar, N''D''A is her last name. Now, she's not related to Sylvie Nadar. She's literally left on Sylvie Nada's doorstep. Sylvie hears this knock on her door, and she goes and answers, and there's this baby. Now Sylvie's in the in the agglomeration, and this is like, in this time in our world, this is something that still happens even today, or at least, you maybe go to the hospital or to the, typically, like in the town where we were, that had a Catholic school and a nunnery, they would go to the nunnery who they ran a maternity home. So just, you'd go to some appropriate place. But if you don't have that, well, you just leave it to somebody that you think might look after it, right? So anyway, but in the agglomeration where, poverty is non-existent anymore, and this is an exceptionally unusual instance. It just never happens because there's no need for it. I mean, this stuff is all taken care of. It's a very sophisticated, ultimate society that we'd like to live in, right? They've solved all the problems essentially. So the fact that she gets this baby left on her doorstep is just a profound thing, and it makes no sense whatsoever to her. And Sylvie, who happens to be a consultant to the who's who of the planet, says like, well, what do I do with this? But because it's this so unusual and so anomalous, Sylvie has to say this is for her specifically, that this baby was given to her, not like typically with a knock on, well, let's hope you find an appropriate place. If you give it to somebody else or whatever, put it in the orphanage, it doesn't matter, right? Something is going to happen. But no, so she takes this, and then she raises, and Sylvie, being a very different person, of course, Biella's upbringing is an entirely different thing. Just as a little snippet here to tease you, because we're gonna cut off in a moment here. Biella doesn't speak. Her first words are at age 8. Not that she can't speak, she can, she just chooses not to. Because Sylvie says to Biella, listen, learn to hear, right? Your learning will get exponentially expounded if you learn to hear. And this really grabs Biella profoundly, and she takes this to heart. So she communicates.
Oh, I like
yes,
that.
But she takes
That's
this to
very
heart,
cool.
like you've seen children do, right? Like you sometimes say something to a child like in an offhand, casual way, and they just grab it and run with it, and it becomes their entire world, right? They become totally obsessed with it. You say, oh, you're a little princess, and they take this to art, and they have to get the outfit and the costume and the room, and they have to have a canopy bed, etc., right? We know this immersive capacity. Sylvie's aware of it. So when she says this to Biella, she hopes this happens, and Biella grabs onto this totally. So and the only reason she speaks at age 8 is because Sylvie's on Zoom with a client, right? And Biella sits there typically off to the side listening, but this particular day, Sylvie has diarrhea, and she's forced to go to the bathroom right at the time when it happens to be the leader of the whole planet that they're on at the time is coming on, right? So now there's a problem, because Biella already understands at age 8, what's going on. This is a client, this is an important client, but she also knows that Sylvie can't come, and she can't say anything, and she doesn't want the client to think that Sylvie's bailing on her, like what's going on. So she responds to the client, and then the client asks her, like, oh, that's interesting, hello, pleased to meet you, and what do you think of me? He says, in a moment of idle curiosity, thinking she's a little girl, and being a politician, that's what they do. Always love to get engagement and feedback. And of course he gets a big earful because you've got this unfiltered honesty coming from. She basically tells it to him straight what she thinks of him, right? And sharing some of Sylvie's perceptions too. And well, of course, the awful truth smacks this guy upside down, left, right, and center. He's not quite prepared for what he hears. And of course, this starts a deep friendship between this leader of the planet and Biella, right? Because he's like just totally knocked sideways by this. But anyway, that's a fun start for the start of Biella's story, right? So anyway, there's more to it as we go through how Biella brings up, Sylvie brings up Biella and all this. So very cool stuff. Lots of depth and moreness here. Lots of depth and moreness, right? So does that make you want to know a bit more about Biella and all her travels and stuff? Yeah. Oh, Lisa dropped. All right. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit of backstory there on Biella. And by the way, on that name, when I wrote it there, I wanted just like I said, I wanted an exotic name to convey that things are different, and that you can't just take Biella as an ordinary person. Yes, and that this having a name like that already puts it into a different thing. Oh, absolute pleasure, Norma. Absolute pleasure. So but also that name has a deep history to it, a backstory, which I have not yet created. Right, so this is still open as to how Sylvie comes to call Biella Ari Berry Biella. Right, this is a very convoluted name, and of course Sylvie never uses it, but there's a reason for it, and we have to invent that name still. At least I do, but I'd like it if we did it all together. That would be fun. So my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. And I'll see you guys again. And Elizabeth, see you again. Ramsey, I didn't hear from you today, Ramsey. I'm assuming, Ramsey, that you were working like Elizabeth, driving, doing something. And I do love to see your comments. Absolutely love them, Ramsey. So, I just assume that you can't, and, not that you don't want to, but that you can't, because I do like to hear what you have to say. Very, very big deal. So, all right, we'll continue tomorrow. That was a nice place to stop on the tasks and exercises. Very cool. So, interesting about Biella and Sylvie. Yes, it's a deep story to me. It touches a lot. So there's two backstory series. The one story is from that dream, right, Sylvie, and from the dream where she basically adopts or takes Biella in, and how she deals with Biella as a baby, because Sylvie's just her own person doing her own thing, very sophisticated, no interest in children, all that, and how she actually raises and thinks about it and goes through all the logic of what to do. So we have the story of Biella, like probably one book will be up to age 8, and then another book or another 2 books might be from age 8 to 16, because at 16 Biella leaves and goes on a big journey, and then we leave Sylvie, and then that's another whole book series there of Biella's tour of the universe, of the agglomeration, I should say. So yeah, so there's a lot moreness in this, right? And you see, when we start going into this idea of how somebody who is very different to start with would raise a child that they have no interest in raising, it brings up all of the complications, the nuances, the sophistication, and the ethics of child rearing, of which Sylvie is profoundly cognizant and deeply pressed. And it raises all sorts of deep, deep, deep questions. It's a very cool series. It's a very, very cool series. All right, so we'll leave that. That's all for way down the road. We're going to stick with Biella on Nobelia for now. But I like sharing these little tidbits to say, there's a lot more here, and it just, I don't know, just adds a lot more for me. So very cool, very cool. All right, brilliant. See you guys when we see you again. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye. And we'll end meeting for all.